Am I audible to you? Are you able to hear me? Because there's so much of noise outside and I want full attention here. So I don't have a competition outside competing with me.
Okay, other one also on.
Good evening. Good evening, can you hear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, to begin with, I'll just introduce our master for the day, Dr. Atanu Ghosh from IIT Bombay. And Dr. Ghosh, the moment you talk of Dr. Ghosh, his name is associated with innovative approaches. And that's what I've also seen not only here, but also when I was at NIT, we used to conduct workshops at IIM. And even at NIT also, I had innovation. After dinner, there was a workshop which was conducted on innovation. So I'm sure that his insights on innovation, his ideas on innovation, and especially the topic today, which is going to be, which is basically the disruptive innovations, for business successes. And that is where, he's going to share his experiences. Already conducted a workshop at the Bombay, right? And now he's here with us. So without wasting time, I would request Dr. Ghosh to begin the workshop and begin the presentation. Thank you, sir.
Move forward because it's so much of noise coming. I don't want to compete with the race. And that's what I said, there's outside competition coming. Okay, are we ready? Good evening. Yeah, okay, go forward, all of you. Let's have seats. There's always a honor and privilege to address to the new audience. I'm meeting you for the first time, and what I've heard and what all the research have shown that when you are addressing a new audience, you feel more nervous. You might have spoken at 100 occasions earlier on the same topic, but facing the new faces and new crowd is always very challenging. So pardon me if I look nervous, but I think as the time passes, you'll find that my confidence level will grow. So this is one thing what brings me here is my association with Early for last almost 20 years, probably 2 decades. So the moment I thought that there is a time slot available, I came for some other purpose here last 2 days in Delhi. I thought that let me spend some time, and I have come here earlier, but I thought talking to the students and sharing some of the thoughts which I have been doing at many places, and this is very interesting and very close to my heart at the moment. So I thought it's worth talking about it. What I am going to cover, in a sense, I don't know whether it is readable. Are you able to read it from there? No problem. So I'll probably get rid of that and I'll try to read from there. But part of it, there's some tables which I might have to refer to. So what I intend doing, and this is not nothing to do probably directly with the industry you are familiar with. There's nothing to do with fashion. Of course, I'll draw some conclusion later and link it with also the fashion industry, apparel industry. But by and large, I am going to talk about why this disruptive innovation is the way to go forward. And there will be not just apparel management related concept. I am going to talk what is probably valid for any organization in the world today. And obviously, India being part of the world, it's also valid for Indian organizations. If you have a look at the Indian organizations, the strategic initiatives they undertake today, and what they think that they are doing great strategy, that will be more related to what do we call it, nothing but concepts like TPM, TQM, benchmarking, outsourcing, Six Sigma, and they think they are great strategies, and that will keep them alive forever. But you must understand that these are the initiatives which can give you some time to breathe, little more extended life for your organization. But this is what, if you keep doing, probably days will be numbered. And why it is so? Because the kind of scenario we're living in. And in fact, I was attending a convention where the topic was very interesting, saying courage in uncertainty. And most of the speaker talked about the kind of uncertain world we're living in. And I must bring some other thoughts from there. Like one gentleman, he said, look at the kind of life the organization used to have. In 1950s and 60s, you'll find organization living for 60 years, probably it is brought down to 50 years. And he mentioned, he comes from telecom industry. He said, look at telecom industry, last 20 years, worldwide, 10 giants in telecom industry has collapsed. That is, every 2 years, organizations are collapsing. He said, you don't have to look at global world. Look at aviation industry, civil aviation in India. And I can name you, I don't know how many of you have seen that or experienced those companies. There are close to 10 have collapsed in a decade. So now, every Paramount, Kingfisher, NEPC, Modelo, Damania, UBR, so East-West Airline, you might have not heard because they just lived for 1 year, 2 years. When going was good, they made little money and then collapsed. So the life of the organization has shrunk to 1 year. Average 2 years and 1 year. So that's what we are seeing now. So under that scenario, if you keep doing only TPM and benchmarking, and these are the what? This is trying to copy somebody else's benchmark, right? That's not doing something very different, something which is disruptive in nature. That's why I come from that. If you really want to leave for, and not only this, organization's life has shrunk, and this gentleman also quoted very interesting figure. He said earlier, the life of a CEO, I think about even 15-20 years back, used to be, a research has shown, 8.1 years on an average. And he said that has shrunk by the end of the last decade to 6 years, and the last 5 years if you look at, it has now shrunk to 5 years. So we are talking about uncertain world in terms of organization life shrinking, even the CEO's life shrinking, and the expectation of customers going up, competition is increasing, and number of offerings, number of choices the consumer is bombarded with is it. So one end there is an expansion of competition, expansion of choices, and shrinkage of the life of the organization, shrinkage of the life of the CEOs. So this is the world we are going to live in, and probably we are a little fortunate, myself and Dudley, we have almost come to close to our innings, right? But think of the days which you are going to enter, the kind of world you are going to enter. So unless you get into, and only thing which can probably give better life, better extended life is the disruptive innovation. It's not if you just keep doing the best what others are doing. Do what others are not doing. Think in that direction.
And we have such a conclusion.
Sixers.
And we are looking at always that we can
Continue forever, right? Yeah. There are India probably is still lagging in terms of, because most of the family managed organizations, who is going to call the shot? Who is going to the CEO that you have become irrelevant? Because they hold the chair because of the dynasty. And that's why probably, and by and large, if you look at most of the Indian organizations, large organizations, are held by the family. So probably it will not be so valid for this. So that's why the need for disruptive innovation, and disruptive is what? What really breaks away from your current pattern, current trend, current way of doing businesses. And that's what we are going to talk about and spend time. And what I'll do, I think most interesting part will be sharing a couple of case studies to illustrate that what I am talking about disruptive innovation, and why actually for some of the organizations which has got into it, got really way ahead from the competition. That's what really I am going to share. I'd also like to share, and this is, I am coming from, again, quoting from Professor Vijay Govindarajan, who has written a very interesting book, and I really suggest all of you to go through at some point of time. This book title is called 10 Rules for Strategic Innovators, Idea to Execution. 10 Rules for Strategic Innovators, Idea to Execution. And in this book, what he has dealt with, that first of course he starts with that why is need for disruptive innovation, why organization must get engaged into it. And he has also done a lot of research to find out why most of the organizations either don't embrace, or if they embrace, they fail. Because the organization is built of the current businesses, and disruptive innovation is trying to take you away from the current businesses. And current businesses who are profit earners, who are the bread and butter winner for the company, they always come in the way. They don't want to, the hard-earned resources by good SBUs, business unit, they don't allow the new business to take that, that hard-earned money or hard-earned, the resources for something which they're uncertain of. Disruptive innovation also doesn't mean success. I mean, it's like new product, 70% of the products fails. In fact, today Rajiv Bajaj mentioned, he said not 70, it's 90% of the innovation fails. So, if you are really investing in 10 products and you get success in one product, but that one product could be a lifesaver for your organization. It can really completely change the game for you, and it can give you a very new life for your organization. But if you don't get engaged into it, you will neither see the bad and good part of the disruptive innovation. So, what comes in the way is some of the orthodoxies, management orthodoxies. I thought here, if possible, I just reflect to this. Take it back. Can I use some laser burn or application from here? How do I get it? It's not. Sorry. Okay, this is what I thought of sharing. One is what kind of strategic innovations are undertaken by the organizations, why disruptive innovation is necessary for emerging economies, and how beneficial it could be. Some of the inspiring success stories, success stories of disruptive innovation in the emerging economies. And if time permits, I'll talk about does it also make sense for MSMEs? You know, interestingly, 85% of Indian organizations are in the MSME sector. They contribute 45% of manufacturing sector, and they contribute 40% of the export of the country. So are they relevant? Are they important for an emerging economy like India? Surely so. But most of the disruptive innovation we'll hear of, it would be either embraced by the large organization. But can MSMEs think of? So I'll just have some pointers for that. And so let's just look at this. Yeah, which I said is, if you look at the strategic initiatives of the organization, can you get rid of this magnification? Most of the strategic innovations taken or initiatives taken by the organization will fall into what I said: benchmark, outsourcing, TPM, TQM. And as I said, these are good for managing the current business. These are not good for what is mouse. Okay, so I can use it from the here. Oh, that's great. So these are the kind of initiatives which, in fact, as Govindarajan puts it, he talks about 3 boxes. I mean, every academic comes with something innovative in terms of idea. So he said there are, look at the initiatives of the organization and put into 3 boxes. Box 1, manage the present. So initiatives which will fall into the category which can only help the organization to survive today, take care of the current operation. There will be second category, which is box 2, which requires the organization to selectively forget the past. And there are third category, which is called create the future. Now box 1 is to manage the present, and box 2 and 3 is really take you to the future. You can't create the future unless you selectively forget the past. And that becomes one of the greatest problems for an existing successful organization. Because last thing a CEO would like to do who has created the past to forget the past. They will like to cling on to it, because if I say that this is becoming irrelevant, get out of it. What I am saying that I have created something which was not sustainable, and life has, they just fail to recognize that this life of that product or the service or the model has gone, and the time has come to move to the new. And if you don't dump that past, you can't move to the future, and that's really coming the way. Now, the box 1 really takes care of the competition for the present, because what you are doing, somebody we have set a benchmark, you say, can I do the benchmark? All I am doing, I am trying to bridge the performance gap between organizations, and that can be done easily by restructuring, right? By infusing a little bit of resources and restructuring, I can achieve that. But box 2 and 3 needs, what it needs, it takes care of competition for the future. And competition for the future, if you can really engage into box 2 and box 3, that kind of initiative, it will really help you to bridge the opportunity gap. And opportunity gaps are much larger than the performance gap. And these are much more sustainable than the performance gap. And that cannot be done by tweaking, restructuring, that requires renewal. That requires reinventing. And that's why the process is much more tougher.
So where will you bring the product failure?
Product failure would be, I think, sticking to that box 1. because all they failed. If you know the Kodak story, what Dirt is mentioning, you will be surprised to know Kodak was the first company through their R&D. They came up with this sensor which is the heart of the digital camera. But it was dumped in the back burner and other organizations followed that and they were complacent. They started justifying the life of the camera, the life of the film has not gone and it has got a long life. Others took the lead and they were left with the large and that company became an, almost extinct. So that's really not looking at box 2, box 3, caught with the box 1. The other management orthodoxies, this is what I said. Benchmark the best practices. Now by benchmarking, you can really manage the present. But box 2 and box 3 creates the next practices, which others will follow. So you set the path and expect others to follow. So you become the leader. And I'm not going into that, fast mover versus follower advantages and disadvantages. Those are connected with it. Then box 1 follows normally traditional organization on top-down strategy formulation. The boss at the top decides what is good for the company and expect everybody to follow that. But box 2, box 3 requires bottom-up strategy. A very good example, I must illustrate an example from Google. Google as an organization is extremely creative, innovative organization. And you know what they have got as a system, as an institutionalized process? Google's top boss meet all the executives in groups for brainstorming session twice a year. Every 6 months, there is session to see what this organization should do. And to keep them always relevant, coming up with something new. And in this session, brainstorming session, there's only one rule. Rule is employees 30 and below can speak and all above 30 only have to listen. Look at the rule, what we are saying. And this rule has got a lot of meaning for an organization like Google. What it's trying to say, that who are the people who today understand the landscape of the new industry, knowledge-based industry, IT, technology-driven industry, is the youngster. Who are the user of technology? They are also youngsters. So who can best judge, anticipate, and can come up with ideas is the youngsters. So give a patient listening, not necessarily 100% to accept, but you give a chance only for them to speak, and then you probably take to the funnel process that which are these ideas you should take forward and which are the things you should say no, time has not come or it doesn't make sense, that can go through the. But first phase, do you encourage your organization the bottom-up strategy? People who are at the bottom really have got equal power or more power to really articulate what they would like to do. Another management orthodoxy, set realistic goal. I'm sure all of you have heard about. It's a very good thing because everybody enjoys. Set a realistic goal means what? What you are conveying. You are saying that set a goal which is not too difficult to achieve that and get your scorecard well and get the bonus at the end of the year. Everybody is happy. But if you really want to look at box 2, box 3, it requires setting unrealistic goals. It is damn difficult to achieve that. But that's what really one should strive for. If you really, because all this box 2, box 3 requires really setting unrealistic goals and achieving.
But Shivkumar did know all this of working here.
Nah.
Why still they almost completely got bypassed?
I under Shivkumar for the first is disclaimer.
Yeah.
But if I try to read his mind, probably this is not one person, because of course he was part of a MNC, Nokia as a global A. And I don't know how much of product development really the Indian head was doing. So maybe there's a rule for the apex management to look at whether this was required. And of course, one thing we must keep in mind, that if somebody is doing box 2, box 3, is not today, and since these ideas are slowly growing, getting into the organization, so everybody is now getting into that mood. So it will be competition against from the base who are also in box 2, box 3. So shift one, even if it's thought, there is another fellow, some probably Chuang or somebody, in Samsung, who thought that he will take the lead and he has done the job better. And that's why Samsung is today flooding the market. And that's probably my take on why Shivkumar has failed.
I won't say fail, but
Fail means, yeah, I think good opportunity loans. Yeah. And other is
this is a very good interpretation what you gave. That is, people are all rushing into the same box.
absolutely.
And where is this? There is a big
There is a clash in the box itself. Yeah. But if you don't move from 1 to 2, 3, you won't even realize what is the competition there. You will be happy with this one, and slowly and like a frog you will die. Box 1 looks at defending your rule. So you only try to protect. I am doing this as long as possible, try to defend the rule. Box 2 and 3 tries to obsolete the current rule. And the very interesting again case study or the example is Xerox versus Canon. Xerox was a industry leader, global leader in photocopy. And if Xerox used to always think that, couple of things they did. There are a number of strategies they adopted. One, very high-end, heavy-duty product. Product which is sold for the organizations which requires multiple copying in thousands. They also, because the product was expensive, they came up with lease option, which is financed by the company and get the EMI. They also had a huge sales force network because they need personal selling, going door to door and also convincing the client. And they also had a very good service network to support, because if you are selling a high-end machine and if you are selling it to IBM, IBM is not ready to wait for even few hours for that machine, getting their machine which is conked off to come back to a recovered position. So the service network was, and these are, each one is expensive. Having sales network, having service network, giving lease, you can't do that unless you got huge resources. And Canon is a company which was born in Japan, hardly had any resources. It's like Sunil Bharti Mittal story, right? Competing with all the heavy resourceful persons or organizations like Tata's, Wheelers, MTN and Government of India, no limitation on the resources, and he competed with them and became market leader. How? Again, I'll come to that as an example. So, obsolete, and most of them, they obsolete the rules which is going on. So, what Canon did, Canon said, I am not going to do anything with Xerox is doing. So, he just did all reverse gear. He said, I don't want to sell it to the corporate. I want a machine for the fellows who are standing on the queue of SOHO, small office, home office kind of people, small entrepreneur. They need probably 20 copies a day. I want a small machine which is just no frill, just do the function of copying. And price they fix up around $1,000 against price range of Xerox, which was $2,000 to $20,000. So first is like Nano, 1 lakh, the car on the road. It didn't become 1 lakh, but that is the target you set and start working backward. So one is said it is for the small organization or the people who need only few copies. Second, if it is 1,000 rupees, I don't need to give a lease option. 1,000 rupees probably people can afford. So I don't need resources to fund that. He made this machine also so simple that people themselves could handle. Like changing a curtain is possible by the owner himself. So you don't need a service network. And since you are selling through, they sold through retail network, so you don't need it in sales force. So all the rules Xerox followed, they made it obsolete. And that's what we call it, that make the current rule obsolete by coming up with a product or service. And that's really the rule for getting into box to box. Now, second point which I thought that why I feel it is more important, more meaningful for organizations in emerging economies. See why disruptive innovation is more relevant even for I think our kind of countries or China or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka. Not probably Sri Lanka, Bangladesh because they're not attractive in terms of the consumer base. You just look at India and China. 1/3 of world's population stay in these two countries. These two countries, per capita income is much lower than what an US or German or French fellow will have. Now, these are the people they're just waiting to get a product which is of good quality, reasonably good quality, but at an affordable price. And that's a great challenge. And this you can never do by box one thinking. You have to get engaged into box 2, box 3 and disrupt. Nano is a disruption. Nano is not following the rule of the game. So, why it is important for emerging economies? There is a huge market waiting for this, and today they are connected with the world as such because they know what's available, what are the kind of developments taking place. All they are waiting to get a product or service may not be of the same complexity, but they are waiting for something which is affordable, but which can do the function. So that's why this is important and very, very relevant for a country like ours. So that's my take that why I think it makes immense sense for us to think about disruptive innovation. Now, several examples. I start with the first one. Ford Motors. I'm sure all of you have heard about Ford Motors, one of the very large automobile company. Now look at the kind of mistake they made. They engaged a team sitting in Detroit to come up with an affordable product for the emerging economy for India. They wanted to enter India. This is somewhere, I think, beginning of 2000. And this team, is likely to happen that way. This team came up with an idea that, first is they decided a car in the range of $15,000 to $20,000 would be probably a car which an Indian can afford. Now, $15,000 to $20,000 car, who are the Indians who can afford that? They are only obscenely rich Indians. Now, were they waiting in 2000 to buy a car in that price bracket? Because they had enough resource, enough fund to even import that and paying those steep import duties. So they are not waiting for. And imagine even if you can come up with that kind of product, what population of India would be able to afford a car in that range? Less than 1%. Is that market then attractive? Market becomes attractive or emerging markets are attractive when you are looking at volumes, because this can really volume churning machines, right? So if you can come up with the right product and right pricing, you have got enormous market in terms of the size of the market, right? Now, Ford Motors, great team, came up with a concept saying that, look, I think Indians can afford to have 2 power windows. So let's give only power windows to the front 2 window and leave this. So bet, you take a bet probably, it will reduce your cost a little bit. But in India, who really sits on the front seat? Well, somebody who is driving a 15,000 to 20,000 car is a chauffeur. So chauffeur got the power and the boss was sitting at the back without power. And that's a perfectly good way of doing the product innovation for a company, trying to imagine what an Indian customer needs sitting in Detroit. This is the one example of failure. But trying to think about disruptive innovation. Next one. And look at the counter to this. One can question whether it has been very successful. Nano. When Ratan Tata thought about being an Indian, connected with the Indian market, He only looked at the scenario at the Indian streets, roads. He said, Indians, a family of 5, husband, wife, and 3 children going on a scooter. Can I give them a better mode? Can I give them a shelter to cover them up during the monsoon, during heavy, summer? And he said, what was his thought? He said, can I migrate the 2-wheeler population to 4-wheeler population? And then he said, what would be an ideal pricing for this? Because those days, if you remember, a good 2-wheeler will be costing around $1,500, about almost 75,000 rupees. And he said, if I can make a car at say $2,000 or $2,500, which is about a lakh plus, think of, even if I can migrate this and give an affordable product, that's a huge market. And that's where the whole thought process started. And that's really the way the Indian thinks and the way the Indian consumer is looking for the product option. And if Nano becomes a great success, it will not remain, the success will not remain in the country, because the whole game in the automobile industry will change. People will look at the small car, affordable car, and many markets will follow. So that's what the Nano story is. Then look at P&G, Procter and Gamble. A.G. Lafley was the CEO of this company. He was visiting China, and the price of a diaper in China was 40 cents. And he found out during stay in China that in China, generally people stay under one roof. The whole family there's hardly any nucleus family. So he found out that the child waits in the bed in the night, the parents' sleep get disturbed. She asked a question that what a Chinese family would be ready to pay for a good night's sleep for the parents. And he also found out the parents are also sleeping in the next room. So then he asked the question that what a Chinese family would be ready to pay for the good night's sleep for the all adults in the family, parents and parents. And then research has shown by the time that if the child sleeps well in the night, then the child also becomes very intelligent. And with one child policy, every parent wanted the child to be super brilliant and intelligent. She asked this question that what a Chinese family would be ready to pay for the good night's sleep for the full adults in the family, and also making their only child super brilliant. And the cost of breakfast in tier 2 and tier 3 towns in China was about 5 cents. And he asked this question, can I make a product at 5 cents and give all this benefit to a Chinese family? And you won't believe that he came up with this product at 5 cents and became a roaring success in Chinese market. And this is really disruption. Disruption because you have broken away from what is 40-cent diaper to a 5-cent diaper by completely re-engineering the product. And it's not the same product, but it really do the function which is supposed to do. Bharti Airtel story which I was talking about, what Bharti Airtel did, they completely changed the business model for the telecom industry. When telecom industry is one which requires huge resources, because the resource in the capital expenditure is very high. Bharti Sunil Mittal, he comes from what kind of family? He was an entrepreneurial family. He didn't have the resources like Tatas, Birlas, Government of India or Ruyas. So he knew one thing, that if he has to really capture the market, Indian market, he has to come up with a product which is affordable product. And the cost of telephone service in the world was about 15 to 20 cents a minute. And he knew at that point of time, in fact, if you remember, Dhirubhai Ambani said, can I make the mobile services, telephone service at the cost of a postage? Cost of a stamp. Maybe 50 paise a minute. Can I make it? But it was not possible if you would have followed the same model. So he completely changed the model, saying that he would like to outsource the telecom network and the IT network to outsiders and pay to them based on the usage of those facilities and the percentage of revenue. So he completely changed the fixed cost, capital expenditure to variable cost and operating expenditure. And that's again a game changer. And he continued to be the leader, and till today he is the leader. He would have never been able to remain as a leader, and all these big brothers would have probably swallowed him if he would have remained in the same path. You have heard about Swatch. Swatch is the water purifier which is brought out by Tata Chemicals. And you know that a Eureka Forbes model will cost you somewhere 5,000 plus, and the Swatch is about 1,000 plus. So you are actually trying to take the need of good water, quality water at affordable price by offering it at 1,000. So that's a completely disruption. You are not following. Otherwise, from 5,000 you might cut down something and come out with product at 3,500 or 4,000. But you will not be able to create the market the way Swatch has been able to create. Another is Arvind Eye Care. I don't know how many of you have heard about. Arvind Eye Care is a hospital which takes care of the eyesight problems, eye care problems. Those who have either low vision or probably no vision. For them, this gentleman is a doctor at the age of almost 60. He thought of creating a hospital and making it affordable by offering an eye surgery at 500 rupees when it costs probably 50,000 rupees in a good hospital. But one thing he ensured, the quality of service was of world class. In fact, there is a very good case study both by Harvard Business School and IIM Ahmedabad, and which has showed that his performance rate is better than even hospitals in UK, and making it affordable. But there is a lot which is done again to completely change the business model by improving the productivity of the doctors, by making the intraocular lenses by himself. That used to cost about $100. $100 is 5,000 rupees. Now, how can you offer a service at 500 if the element which is required costs you 5,000 rupees? So he started manufacturing it by having the technology transfer and started exporting even the IOL at about he sells at $10, which is about not $10, $5, so 250 rupees. And he has not only been able to make it affordable by his own hospital, even other hospital doctors have been trained to do this IOL surgery and improve the productivity, and using IOL at $5 and completely change the landscape. Today is a great story of giving affordable eye care at international global standard quality. ITC is e-chopper. I've heard the story. How you beat the agri produce for your company by using a network, IT network with the villagers directly, eliminating the middleman. And not only that, the great idea is just not eliminating the middleman and making the whole transfer deal, the transaction deal transparent. The farmer knows the price which is there. Farmer knows which market is offering the best price. Farmer knows what is the demand required in that particular pocket or particular city, and I can in fact decide to even sell my product to another location, even paying the transport cost, and I may find that I am gaining some extra rupees by selling it to a different location. So one is the transparency. Second, what he did, he used the same channel to sell the product which the rural market needs. So one is procuring their product and also selling the product which the rural market needs. So he identified like watches, like umbrella, all that he started selling through the same channel by using the same network. So that's again a very good example of disruptive innovation. Nile and Cheek shampoo completely changed how the rural market or rural folks also can use shampoo. Till then, shampoos were sold in 100 milliliter, 200 milliliter bottle, and a rural folk can never afford a 100 milliliter bottle. But once you made it affordable at 1 rupee or 2 rupee sachet, you said now probably I can try it out, and at least some percentage of rural population started becoming user of the shampoo, which they never thought of. So that's again a thought process. It's complete disruption from selling shampoo in big large volume 100 milliliter to selling a 1 rupee sachet. Last one is the financial inclusion, and financial inclusion which of many of the microfinance companies. One of them is Basics of Hyderabad, doing a great job. But most interesting is the Grameen Bank of Bangladesh. Grameen Bank is almost pioneer in microfinance. I'm sure all of you have heard about Grameen Bank, Muhammad Yunus, who got the Nobel Prize also. Now this gentleman, look at the thought. He observed that in Bangladesh there are thousands of beggars who go door to door every morning, and at the end of the day, they may not get probably enough to meet their two ends, to get even 2 meals. So, and which bank, which institution will give finance to the beggars who probably doesn't have an address, doesn't have a shelter, and what the collateral they are going to offer? So you can't, nobody will think of, that beggars also as a consumer for a Grameen Bank. So he thought of a concept. He said, I'll give you little money, maybe 50 rupees a day, and since you are moving from door to door, why don't you go and ask this household that doesn't need any grocery or any vegetables to be bought from a nearby shop, and you provide that service to them and charge little margin. So he turned the beggars by giving the microfinance. As some beggars choose to be beggar only. Some beggars were playing dual role, beggar plus booking agent, and some beggars converted themselves as booking agents. So they go, take the order, buy it, and at the end of the period, and 250,000 beggars today are the beneficiary of the microfinance offered by Grameen Bank. Isn't it a completely disruptive innovation? Can you do with the box one thinking? Never. So you have to really break the rules of the game, but it's hugely successful, and there is hardly any NPA. The return of the principal which he gives is 99%. There is hardly any failure. So these are the stories of disruptive innovation. Each one of these which I illustrate is really drive home that if you can think, but look at the whole starting point is how do you think about this? The whole process, idea generation, comes from identifying the need of your consumer or the client or the group of people who needs that kind of product, and that's how really you play. So the first